everyone, my name is Kimmy Girl, and today I'm gonna be talking about a friend who is a bit more boy crazy than most 12-year-old girls are. Yeah, we'll go with that. Anyway, so there was this girl, we're gonna name her Jess. We'll name her Jess. I've never met a Jess in my life. Anyway, so Jess, I had kind of this group of friends, and Jess was like in that group of friends, like in that sort of circle of friends I had. Anyway, so like Jess was one of my like really close friends, and we would, you know, go shopping with a lot of our friends. Like I didn't normally go shopping, it was more like hot topic stuff, or we'd like go to the park, or we basically like always hang out with each other. Well, like Jess was she was always more of kind of this more perky girl, and she let me just say, like, this is kind of why like it set us off. She like always was the one to like plan when we were gonna go out together. Like she'd, you know, hit us all up and be like, hey, let's go to the park, or like, hey, let's go to the mall, or like, hey, let's chill at my place or something. She's normally the one who would like always like ask if we wanted to hang, or like she was always the one who was more upbeat, and she wasn't sort of like shy. She was more kind of like, she was definitely an extrovert. And so I don't know, it was like one day, like, she, was a bit, giggly, and I don't know. We didn't really know why, but, like, she was always kind of like that, so we just kind of passed it off. Well, she, like, became more of kind of like a ditz, is what we called her. She would be more kind of, like, staring off into the distance, or, like, giggling a lot, or something like that, and, she also started, like, not, like, calling us or, like, responding to our texts, and, like, when we'd see her, we'd be like, hey, you didn't, like, come to the park or something, or, like, you didn't call, or, like, ask if we wanted to hang or something, and she's like, oh, yeah, I was busy, or, like, oh, yeah, this, or, and I don't know, she would, like, come up with lame excuses, too, like, oh, yeah, like, I was tired and I slept a lot, or, like, I was with my parents, or, like, I was at home. Like, she would literally just say, oh, yeah, I was at home. Great excuse, Jess. So anyway, Jess started, we noticed, like, she wouldn't, like, answer, and, like, when we called, she would, like, immediately hang up, and if it was voice call, she would just let it go by, and, you know, we also noticed, like, there was only, like, one day of the week when she would, like, actually come hang out with us, and it was mostly, like, on the weekends, or, like, on a Wednesday. Like, it was always just, like, one random day. And, she always had, like, a ton of money. And normally when she would come shopping with us or something like that, or we'd go get something, she didn't normally have, like, lots of money like she did then. Because she would come with, like, $100 to $200. And, you know, it was weird because normally she'd come with us for, like, $50 or to, like, $10 to $50 because that's what her parents would give her. Or, like, her brother would give her a little bit of money. But, like, she never had, like, hundreds of dollars. But, like, at one point she started, like, coming with hundreds of dollars, like, and, like, buying whatever she wanted. And she would buy more kind of, more, slutty clothes. They would be, like, you know, like, knee socks and, you know, like, kind of mini skirts. She would even get, like, she started getting, like, crop tops and, like, low tops. And she, like, always had her hair up, and she, like, always wore, like, a lot of makeup all of a sudden. And, I mean, she was a perky girl. Like, yeah, she was a perky girl. She would wear a lot of pink, but she always, like, wore actual clothes. And, didn't wear a lot of makeup. Like, sometimes, she'd wear maybe mascara and, like, a little bit, like, of, like, lip gloss. But she didn't wear, like, full-on, like, red lipstick and have, like, her eyes and, like, everything done. She seriously looked like a prostitute. And I think, like, we were, like, at the mall, and she, like, got a call, and she just kind of got this, like, oh, yeah, I gotta take this, and we're like, can't you just take it later? And then she's like, no, I gotta take this, and she's, you know, she runs off, and she goes far away, too. She doesn't, like, just stay near, like, it was, like, something important and something that was supposed to be secret. And so, she, you know, comes back, and she's like, hey, I gotta go, and we're like, who was it? And she's like, my brother. And we're like, your brother? Why do you have to leave because of your brother? And she said, like, oh, he has a game, and we're like, he plays sports, and she kind of looks at us like, and she's like, yeah. And she just runs off. She doesn't, like, answer anything. She, like, wraps her stuff. And so we're all kind of confused, and we're like, okay, she's not going to see her brother, because her brother didn't play sports. And, because he never really liked sports. He was more into, guitar. Like, he hated sports. Like, we knew that. And so we're like, we should follow her. So we actually decided to follow her. And we thought, like, maybe she'd get a ride. But no, like, we saw her exit the mall, and she started going. And, like, we were looking, and when she finally, like, exited the parking lot, we're like, yeah, she's not getting picked up by her brother. So we finally, like, follow her, and we think maybe she's gonna go to her neighborhood. But no, she goes, like, really far away. She, like, we were, getting, like, tired, and she actually turned around because, like, we, like, couldn't breathe. Because, like, she went so far out. She had, like, a water bottle in her purse because she was going so far out. Like, it's like she knew that she was gonna be going really far. So, we're, like, following her, and there's only 3 others, so there's, like, 4 of us, and we're, like, there's some people, like, over there in the trees, and then I'm, like, in the bushes with my friend, and we're seriously, like, jumping back and forth, like, we're spies, like, and, I mean, by the time we got there, like, we're sweating, and we're tired, and we're in the middle of freaking nowhere. We followed her to, like, the desert of Washington. So, I mean, there's, like, a few houses, but we're almost in, like, the hood. We are in, seriously, we're, like, there are people hanging with their, like, pants all the way to their ankles and, you know, doing, like, gang signs, and we're like, oh my gosh, are we in a freaking, like, hood neighborhood? And, like, we didn't really know, like, where we were, because, like, we kind of assumed we were in Hilliard, because that's kind of what it seemed like, and I'm like, why is she coming here? Like, I know she doesn't live here, and her family isn't, like, rich, but they're way above of, like, going to Hilliard or going to where, like, the Bottoms live. And I sound like I'm telling them they're complete trash, but she's in the more, like, poor neighborhood, and I don't understand what she's doing there. So we were talking about going back until we saw her, like, enter the neighborhood. And we're like, well, she's here for some reason, and we gotta follow her. So we decided to follow her, and we're now, like, hiding, like, near this guy's house, and she knocks on this guy's house, and this, like, teenager opens up, and he, like, grabs her wrist, like, looks at it for some reason, and then they go in the house. So we kind of were like, well, now what do we do? And, we were, like, talking to their neighbor, like, who lives there? And they're like, oh, just some, or no, they said more, like, kind of in, like, oh, his name is, we'll say, Jason. Oh yeah, Jason lives there. You're not going to see him, are you? And we're like, no, why? And he like, tells us, like, oh, well, he's just had issues in the past. And he's like, I don't want to talk about it. Last time I talked about it to someone, my child got hurt. And we're like, oh no, what is she doing in there? So we asked, like, okay, so who's home? And he's like, just Jason. And so we're, like, really confused. So we're thinking, like, so our friend is probably in a criminal's home, and he's home alone. So we're like, what is she doing there? So we desperately want to know, right? So we're like, we can either go inside the house or knock. And they're like, no, because she's probably, it's like, we have a few options here. She could be getting drugs from him. She could be, we really didn't know, and we're like, she has been getting a lot of money. Like, a lot of money. And we're like, maybe this is the guy that's getting her money. So basically we decide to, like, sneak around the back. And then we finally hear, like, a doing kind of like a mild, like, creaking. It is, like, really quiet. And then we're like, what is that? And we can actually look inside the window. Like, I had to stand on my friend's back. He, like, kind of got down and let me up. And I, like, looked in. And they are in a compromising position, we'll say that. Yeah, they were doing it. There were, protection packages on the floor. And so I, like, jumped down. I seriously, like, fell off his back and, like, rolled down, like, the mini hill he had in his backyard. And they're like, what's going on? And I'm like, they're doing it in there. And she had no makeup on, so he must have, like, told her to take off the makeup. Because seriously, she had no makeup. She had no hair tie, and she definitely had no clothes. So, you know, one of my friends finally looking, because, you know, he's super tall, and he kind of, like, holds on the window and, like, pulls up, and he's like, yeah, they're doing it. So we're like, well, what are we gonna do? Jess is in the middle of nowhere, literally in the hood, literally in Hilliard, where all the bad people are at, doing it with some guy, and we're like, well, what do we do? And we're like, we gotta act mature. And so we, like, go to the front door, and, like, they're all really freaked out. Like, I know two girls, they're like, I'm not getting involved with this, like, my two friends, and they, like, kind of backed up and went to, like, the neighbors, and just kind of stayed on the sidewalk. And so I finally, like, you know, bashed on the door, and he finally, like, comes, and he has, like, his underpants on and his shirt, and he's, like, sweating, and I'm like, where is Jess? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I finally, like, shove past him, and my friends already think I'm insane, because, and I think I'm insane, like, I'm halfway in there, and I'm like, what did I just do? And I see Jess laying on the bed, under the blanket, like, putting something on, and I finally, like, he's like, what are you doing in my house? Get out. And he finally realizes, like, I know Jess, because I'm already in, like, mid staring at her, and, like, finally, like, my two friends come behind, and they're, like, looking at her. And so, after a while, she finally, like, gets dressed, and we finally, like, drag her out. And, you know, she, you know, takes her stuff, and he, like, tosses money out of the house, and he's like, you're fired. And I seriously, we all look at her with our stunned faces, and then, you know, her, like, her best friend that she's known since, like, preschool, like, before preschool, like, birth, he looked at her and he said, fired? You're fired? Fired from what? And she's like, I'm a housekeeper, and I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And, so finally we, like, take her back to the mall, and we're, like, yelling at her. We're like, what are you doing? You're a prostitute, aren't you? And she finally, like, caves in. So, yeah, one of my best friends was a prostitute. That's, kind of all I got here about that story. There's some other, like, details, but, I don't know if I might do a part 2 to this. But I know, it was really surprising, because, you know, when you're 12, you don't normally expect to find out your 12-year-old friend is a prostitute. I mean, in my head, that's not what normally happens between 12-year-old friends. So, I think that's all I got for today. If you like this video, dab on that like and subscribe. That was a terrible dab. Dab on that like and subscribe button, join the Cammy family, and, become a unicorn today. Yeah. And, I'll see you guys later. Peace.